I'm a former Zionist and a former Jew. Let's go on a journey together to uncover the truth.
I think Americans largely get it. They know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are.
On 9/11, why was this Israeli woman smiling?
Well, big catastrophe, and I'm Israeli, and I hope that now people understand what we have to deal with, the kind of people that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
This is World Trade Center 7, which wasn't even hit by an airplane on 9/11, free fell into its own footprint at the speed of gravity and was an obvious controlled demolition. One of Benjamin Netanyahu's closest friends, Larry Silverstein, a major Zionist financier of Israel who is deeply connected with numerous Israeli terrorist leaders such as Yitzhak Shamir and Ariel Sharon, leased the World Trade Center shortly before 9/11 for a mere $14 million. When the Twin Towers collapsed in controlled demolitions engineered by the Israeli Mossad, Silverstein worked through his buddy Elliot Spitzer, the pro-Israel Zionist governor of New York, to use an insurance scam that pocketed him a $4.5 billion windfall.
Elliot Spitzer, he got me the $4.5 billion. We got very, very lucky. It was very, very good for the family, very good for us, and we were very, very fortunate.
We are benefiting from one thing, and that is the attack on the Twin Towers and Pentagon and the American struggle in Iraq. The Israeli Maariv newspaper quoted Benjamin Netanyahu as saying in April 2008, he reportedly added that these events swung American public opinion in Israeli favor.
And I hope that now people understand what we have to deal with, the kind of people that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Israel's main strategic goal with Operation 911 was to spread panic and terrorize the public into hating Arabs and Muslims so that Americans would support perpetual Middle East wars on behalf of Israel. What's the truth about Al-Qaeda, who is blamed for 9/11, and the so-called Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, or ISIS? Both were created by Israel's Mossad and the CIA, who used them as puppets to deceive the public and fabricate phony justifications for U.S. wars, primarily to advance Israel's goal to create a Middle East empire.
From the Jordan River to the Middle East, that's all ours. It was promised to us. There's no Palestinian nation.
There's a fight between the good and the bad, the good and the evil.
We will bomb Shifa Hospital, all the hospitals, all the tunnels, and kill them all. It's about time. We are the center of the world now.
Here's former CIA Director and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo dancing with the Israeli army, apparently to celebrate the joint Israeli-U.S. genocide in Gaza. Israel has been planning the total genocide, expulsion, and subjugation of the Palestinian people for many years. In February 2008, Israeli General Matan Vilnay threatened Palestinians in Gaza with a bigger Holocaust. In 2017, Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich unveiled Israel's blueprint to commit genocide against the Palestinians in the Decisive Plan, also known as the Subjugation Plan. When asked if he intended to slaughter entire Palestinian families, including women and children, Smotrich said, "In war, as in war."
Everyone knows what happened on October 7th was an Israeli setup. Everyone knows.
What? Look at him smile.
It was an Israeli setup.
This is Israel's 9/11. This is Israel's 9/11.
Israel used its second 9/11, the October 7th, 2023 incident, as the justification to implement the decisive plan genocide of Palestinians that Smotrich publicly announced 6 years earlier.
All night I've been removing bodies from beneath the rubble, dead children. We pulled them from 3 locations.
And I would like to use the rest of my time to say how appalled I am that people are bringing up the Holocaust. Do not use other genocides to describe this one. I have been...
You've seen footage of
shredded children's bodies, and that's my taxpayer dollars. I'm going to bomb those kids.
So I think we should kill them all, if that makes you feel better.
Washington is Israel's most subservient colony.
What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we seek? Not a Pax Americana, enforced on the world by American weapons of war. Not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
JFK supported Palestinian refugee rights, opposed Israel's nuclear weapons program and expansionist war plans, and tried to force AIPAC to register as a foreign agent. From the moment he took office in January 1961,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, so help me God.
JFK made it crystal clear that nuclear weapon non-proliferation was a pillar of his presidency as part of his quest for global disarmament, the abolition of nuclear weapons and all weapons of war, and ending the capacity of all nations to wage war. His Zionist vice president, Lyndon Johnson, who was primarily loyal to Israel, did not share JFK's values.
I have already taken steps to coordinate and expand our disarmament effort and to make arms control a central goal of our national policy under my direction. The deadly arms race and the huge resources it absorbs have too long overshadowed all else we must do. We must prevent that arms racing from spreading to new nations, to new nuclear powers.
Not only was LBJ opposed to every aspect of JFK's peace and disarmament policies, Johnson in the 1940s had illegally shipped weapons in boxes marked Texas grapefruit to Zionist terrorist militias who ethnically cleansed the Palestinians in the 1948 Nakba. Neither JFK nor his brother and confidant, Robert Kennedy, wanted LBJ in the White House, as revealed by JFK's widow, Jackie Kennedy.
It was only months after her husband's assassination when a 34-year-old widow sat down to record more than 8 hours of recollections about her husband and his most private thoughts while they were still fresh. JFK and his brother Bobby on Lyndon Johnson, the new president.
Bobby told me this later, and I know Jack said it to me sometimes. He said, "Oh God, can you ever imagine what would happen to the country if Lyndon was president?" So many times he'd say it, or if there was ever a problem.
Lyndon Johnson was a pathological liar, as reported by Bobby Kennedy, who said, "LBJ lies all the time. I'm telling you, he just lies continually about everything. He lies even when he doesn't have to lie." Speaking of lies, by May of 1963, JFK was furious at Israel for lying to him constantly about their nuclear weapons program. Kennedy delivered a near ultimatum to Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion. allow meaningful American inspections of Israel's reactor in Dimona to prove it wasn't being used for nuclear weapons, or Israel would risk losing all American and Western support. Also, Ben-Gurion established his ambition to, quote, abolish partition and expand to the whole of Palestine, end quote, as far back as 1937, when Israel attempted to conquer the Gaza Strip and the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula, seize the Suez Canal, and overthrow Egypt's President Nasser, with help from Britain and France, in the 1956-57 Suez Crisis. President Eisenhower kicked Israel out of Egypt using boycotts, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. Lyndon Johnson, the leader of the Senate in 1957, strongly opposed Eisenhower's sanctions against Israel, but President Eisenhower overruled him and told Israel to pound sand and withdraw. JFK, who was also a senator in 1957, did not rush to Israel's defense or attempt to undermine Eisenhower's sanctions against Israel the way LBJ had.
Thousands of Israelis demonstrate in Jerusalem against withdrawal from Gaza and Aqaba.